I have to say, for as long as I've been in IT and security, which has been a very long time, this topic has been, well, let's say, always a challenging topic. There are two sides to this coin, and both sides are right. And it's an argument and a discussion that hasn't gone away. And I'm going to give you a couple of recent examples in this. So it's government access to keys. And here's what the idea is. Let's say a software company creates a product, or a hardware company creates a product that encrypts your data. And you want to keep it private. You want to keep it secret. It's your stuff. Well, what if, though, you commit a crime? What if you commit espionage, or you commit some form of treason? Treason? No, not treason. Treason or terrorism, or you are under investigation by the FBI. That information may not be as private as you thought it was. What this is that software companies will give copies of their keys to the government. Now, the government is responsible to keep these keys not accessible or usable. They keep them in a key escrow. Sometimes it's a third party within the government, or a third party key escrow, that these keys can be used when necessary in order to, well, uncrack something so that they can see what it is. So in common times, if there's a court order or a warrant that is obtained in order to be able to use that. Now, we've had this process in place for longer than you might be aware. And it's certainly starting after 9/11, this was enhanced, and even more was put into this. And let me give you what one of the arguments has been, and how some people have gotten around this. There are encryption methods and communication manners where the government does not have access to these keys. And right now, at the time of this recording, and I'm sure when you're listening to it, it's still going to be an argument, there are some of these secured programs that the government cannot decrypt. They cannot monitor, they can't check. And there's a challenge right now with terrorism being utilized on these communication channels. But there are people that create these communication channels for a different, not so that terrorists can communicate and not be monitored. It's so that they believe, though, your privacy is your privacy. You have a right to keep your data secured from prying eyes, and regardless of who that is. Now, whichever side of this argument you might kind of lean towards, both sides are correct. The government wants access for, criminal activity, which makes a lot of sense. And with all of our activities being on electronic devices, our phones, our tablets, all of that kind of stuff, this is a challenge today, and the communications across the internet. However, there's also some righteousness in the idea that, well, I have some private medical records. I have some things that I don't want anybody to know, because they don't have according to me, they don't have that authority. Now, there's another example of this, and I kind of want to clarify this one a little bit. Recently, Apple has been under scrutiny because the FBI has had a phone that they need cracked, and they haven't been able to crack it. Now, Apple usually helps the government, and so do other companies, open up their phones when there's a court order. In this case, this was a little bit different. What the FBI needed Apple to do was not just pull the data out of the encryption that they'd already put on there, but they wanted a backdoor written into the operating system. This is something that doesn't already exist, and it creates a weak point to the encryption. And here's Apple's argument is, if we do this for you, it's immediately going to get out. Hackers are going to be able to crack into anybody's phone, and then in real time, because of this backdoor. And that's a very big concern. The FBI's position is that we need to get the data off this phone, and we don't know how to do it at this point. Now, fortunately, this argument kind of settled down when the FBI did find a third party that could crack the Apple phone and get the data off. However, you can imagine this argument is going to continue for some time. So as you think about government access to keys, be aware that this is an ongoing discussion with everybody. And it's been going on as long as I've been in IT. It'll probably be going on as long as you're in IT. But this is generally the idea to government access to keys.